everybody, it's Pastor Grady and welcome so much to my channel, Candid Conversations with me, yours truly, Pastor Grady. We got a great show for you today, but before we get started, can you go ahead and subscribe to my channel and listen throughout the show tonight? If this show is blessing you, and I know that it's gonna, I need you to go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and let us know that we're doing a great job, because we want to keep bringing the greatest to you every week. And while you're hitting the thumbs up, could you please just go ahead and share with everybody that you know, share on all of your social sites so everybody can be blessed by this awesome show tonight. Well, I think it's going to be a great show, so go ahead, subscribe, all right? So listen, as I said, we have a great show tonight. We're going to be talking tonight about transitions in life. And I have an awesome guest on the show tonight. And this lady has been through many transitions in her life. And some of the transitions were super wonderful. But unfortunately, she went through a transition that was sooner than she thought in her life. And we're going to be talking about those things tonight. It's so many things as in life that we will transition from one season to the next. Some seasons seems to be like the best ever. And then there are those seasons where it feels like, will I ever get out of this? And then there are those unfortunate seasons where you feel like you're in a valley that is so deep that you can never make your way out. Well, my guest tonight has seen all of those seasons, and we're going to talk tonight. Tonight we are talking transitions, the transitions of life. We all face them, and tonight we're going to talk. You guys, please join me in welcoming to the show tonight, Lady Patrice Headen. God bless you, girl. You look so beautiful. And those eyes, girl, they just bang and they just popping. The lashes are doing the right thing. The eyes are just focused and you're looking amazing. So how are you doing?
Good.
Thank you so much for being on my channel.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about Lady Patrice Headen. Lady Patrice Headen. See, it just sounds royal. Come on, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
I am Patrice Headen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm originally from Greenville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I moved here to go to school.
And where did you go to school?
Oh, at the illustrious North Carolina Agricultural
Girl, say it again.
University.
Yeah.
Graduated. Got my master's. Got stuck here, and yeah. I'm a member of the Patrice House.
Oh, and we love having you. You're such a blessing, such a blessing. Well, tonight, we're talking about transitions, and I know you, and been knowing you now for it's been about 12 years, right? About 12 years, and I've seen you transition from singlehood to first lady status to the prophet's wife, to mother, and unfortunately widow. Let's talk a little bit. And you married a wonderful prophet. He was one of my husband's favorite sons in the gospel. And let's talk about being single and meeting this wonderful prophet.
Well, I think it was interesting because I, in the whole dating situation, because I have another child, my oldest is 19. She's a freshman at North Carolina University. But I was very cautious with dating with a child, only because of growing up, just very cautious. So I really wasn't looking. I guess that's what they say when you're not looking. That's when you run into it.
Well, that's normally when it happens.
Right, and I definitely was not looking for a man to live off.
Neither was I. Girl, tell me, how did we do that? How did we end up like that? It had to be ordained by God.
It had to be. Ooh, Jesus.
And so you meet this wonderful man of the cloth. And tell us how you met him.
Our first encounter, I actually remember it. It was really funny. It was, I think it was back in October, November. He was doing a service at the church that I was a member of at that time. And he prophesied to me. He called me out.
He was indeed a prophet.
Yes, he was. Well, I didn't think he was a prophet that day. He was off.
He was all over the place.
He was off.
In your opinion.
In my opinion, he was off. I was like, oh, okay. So he got ready to break him. I'm like, because you off. But he prophesied something to me that was actually off. It's just not something that was. I didn't go to school for fashion. Mm-hmm. I like to look cute, but I ain't got nothing to do with fashion or any of that. So I thought it was off. And then the second time we met, it was at that church again. Mm-hmm. And he
did have a prophecy for you that time?
Because I hid.
You hid.
I hid in the back of the church. He saw me and he tried to wave, and I hurried up and left. Like, I beeline to the door. Asia, let's go. The third time we ran into each other, actually, my pastors then were renewing their vows at the Potter's house, and he was the best man. So, when we get back to the reception, I'm sitting in the corner where there's no light.
Still trying to hide.
And he sent the hostess over and calls me, and he was just like, I keep running into you. I'd really like to sit down and talk to you. I work in mental health too. You know, I run a group home. I'm like, okay.
So what were you thinking at that point?
I didn't want to be mean, and I was down for a free meal. Because back then I was a real big girl. I was down for a free meal. And I gave him my business card. He texted me. He said, can we go have lunch? I said, sure. He says, well, can we do the Olive Garden in Greensboro? Because I'm going to be seen in public with you. Mind you, he was not my type.
Okay.
At all. And I
thought it was the wonderful thing is opposites attract.
Yes, we're very, very opposite. I think the only thing that was on my checklist is that, I have a thing with light skin.
Yeah.
I like yellow.
So you had the yellow thing going on, but he was a man of the cloth.
He was a man of the cloth. He was, kind of chunky, and, two big people just don't look right together. So I was just like, this ain't gonna work. And I thought he was older than what he was. So I said, well, how about, my office is downtown. How about we go to the Arby's on Summit Avenue?
So that's where the first date.
Ain't nobody gonna see us that I know. I'm not gonna have to explain anything. So we got to Arby's, and we're sitting down, we're chit-chatting. I threw everything but the kitchen sink at him.
Oh, man.
I said, listen, you're a minister, you're a pastor, you're a prophet. I'm going to help you so you don't have to work hard and pray about who I am. I said, listen, first of all, I have a kid. Second of all, I've lived an alternative lifestyle. I'm a former alcoholic. Sometimes still a wino. I said, I get stressed out. I'm going to smoke me a Newport. I threw everything at him. He was like, well, we're all human. This is not working.
And how did you feel about that? Did you think that he saw you as a project or as somebody that he could work with? Or how were you feeling at that point when he was still, after you had laid all of this out, and now he's still interested?
I think he probably did see me as a project. Couldn't understand it. I just couldn't understand it. But then, after I did all that, he's like, okay, now we got that out of the way. So, what do you like to do? Well, first of all, what am I supposed to call you? He said, my name is Harrison. I said, okay, Harrison. What you want me to Harrison. I'm like, I feel like I'm disrespecting you.
Yeah.
And at that point, he was just like, at the end of the day, I am Harrison. My job is a pastor. My calling is a prophet.
Wow.
But I'm human, and my name is Harrison.
See, I wish so many more pastors understood that because they get so sidetracked with the office, and they make the office who they are. But I'm a pastor. I am not a pastor 24 hours a day.
Right.
And I don't walk on water. I don't glow in the dark, and I don't get it all right. But I love the fact that Pastor Headen had that down pat. And so it made the relationship go a whole lot smoother.
Yes, it
Talk
did.
about that.
And after we finished eating, he said, I promise you this is the church player line of the year. use this line. It will work. I
It'll
promise
work.
you, because it worked on me. So he walks me to my car. I forget half the stuff we talked about that day. But when he walked me to the car, he says, well, I don't know what this is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Business, friendship, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But pray about it and see what the Lord said. I said,
Wow.
ooh,
Oh.
that was different.
Mm.
I've never had it. I said,
Yeah.
okay. I can't be mean to him now because he done told me to pray
He
about
told
it.
you to pray about it.
And
That's a smooth operator
that
right
was,
there.
it was. And that's actually what got me, because I really did, after I left
Mm-hmm.
Arby's, I was like, okay, Lord, look, this is no, but maybe, but no. And it was like a high school relationship.
Okay.
We would stay on the phone until one of us fell asleep. It was never a hang up goodbye. It was fun.
Okay.
Like, I dated Harrison.
Okay.
I did not date Prophet Headen. I did not date Pastor
girl,
Headen.
see that
You
that right there is strong, because so many women fall in love with the office,
Mm-hmm.
and they think that's what they're going to get 24 hours a day, and that's not going to happen. And so in some cases, women will fall in love with the office of the prophet, or
Right.
the office of the bishop, or the pastor, or whoever. And when they don't see that 24 hours a day, they get disillusioned. But I love what you're saying, because you're saying that you dated
Yes.
the man
Yes, ma'am.
and not the office.
Yes, because I rant now. I tell everybody, he used to hate that I would say it, that when I first met him, I would describe my attraction to him as being Flavor Flav. But after our conversations, he became Denzel Washington to me. And I was going to fight you.
Wow.
I was going to go to jail because I knew he was going to bail me out.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood after going out with him when he would minister, and you would see the women fawn over the anointing. I'm like, but this Negro, when he finished preaching, we're going to turn on 97.1. We're going to drive home. So I understood.
How did that make you feel? He's preaching and women are just like, ugh. I mean,
At times, honestly, it made me insecure a lot of the times, because in dating him, because I met so many people, and the fact that he was married prior to me, and his ex-wife was a minister, and she walked by him in ministry, it was a little intimidating because I wasn't in ministry. But it was never my desire.
Yeah.
You know, if I married him, I was going to be his wife. I was not his,
co-pastor.
Right. That's not something that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an issue at times when meeting some of his titled friends.
Yeah.
You know, oh, I don't know if she's going to be able to handle you. I don't think she's going to understand ministry.
So see, God knows exactly what Harrison needed.
Right.
And the biggest mistake I feel that is being made right now is every pastor, male pastor, or even female pastors, if they're married, they feel like they got to have the husband or the wife as the co-pastor, and that's not necessarily the assignment. The assignment could simply be, as yours was, to be his first lady.
Right.
Not so much the first lady to the church, but his first lady.
Right.
You know, and I feel that, a lot of churches are in trouble because of that very fact. They got people in the pulpit that are not supposed to be pastoring and leading so much as they're supposed to be standing by the man or the woman of God.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, like I said, it was intimidating at times, but he would always tell me if that's what I wanted, that's what I would be with.
Okay.
And we had our challenges. I sat with my bishop and pastor and counsel quite often. We had our challenges, but I also had to take into consideration that I hadn't been married before. He had, and he had been hurt.
Yeah.
And he was very hard and cold. And
cautious.
Yes. Yes. And, I literally I pay my own bills. I take care of my child. I don't need you to do anything for me. We're supposed to compliment each other, and that's it. But I'm telling you now, I'm giving you a year to decide on what you want to do. Well, a year turned into 4.
You guys dated for 4 years?
We dated for 4 years.
Wow. Okay.
4
And was
years.
that, how was that whole 4-year process? Was it tumultuous? How was it?
I tell everybody that when I met Harrison, I was grown, but I was a little girl.
Mm.
But he helped me to become a woman.
Wow.
In all aspects, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yeah.
Even down to where I was at was not nurturing me to where I needed to be. And he said, if you're going to be with me, then you need to be with me completely.
Wow.
So, I love Potter's house.
And that's when you came in to become a part of our church alongside him. And so you're dating for 4 years, and you come and you stand alongside him, you're worshiping with him, and falling in love, and he's fallen in love.
Hiding it, but
hiding it.
He was hiding it. This is just my friend. Okay, I'm your friend.
So now you're in love, and there comes a time where there's this huge question that he has to pop. Let's talk about popping the question. You are a single woman, not a pastor, not a minister, and you got this prophet that is now ready to pop the question. Let's talk about it.
Well, I guess it's called Candid Conversation, so we're going to be candid.
Okay.
To be honest, we slipped. We're not perfect. He went back into ministry, started pastoring, and the church was very accepting of, they knew our relationship.
Okay.
They knew that eventually, they didn't know when,
Yeah.
but they knew eventually it was going to go down the aisle. But approximately 3 months after our grand opening, I was baking bread. I had a bun in the oven, and I was not married. And I respected my husband so much. I think I fell in love with him more then because he was more concerned about covering me than he was about losing ministry. Because I waited until I told him. I actually waited until I had made the appointment to terminate the pregnancy because I knew how important ministry was for him. And I knew this is your second go around and you don't want to mess it up. So listen, out of respect for you, I'm going to let you know what's going on, but I know that this can't happen this way. He's never really talked harsh to me before, but that day he did.
Because you were about to terminate.
I was getting ready to terminate the pregnancy. And after I told him, he didn't question anything. He just told me, no, that's not what you're going to do. First thing in the morning, I'm calling my bishop. And that's what he did. That night was very, 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 you can cut it with it was very tense. And we got up and we got up and I went into the room and he says, I'll be right back. I wanted to be nosy. So I'm standing in the bathroom doorway trying to hear him talk to Bishop, and Bishop was elated that we were having a child because he knew from his first marriage that that's what he wanted. And my husband, he was just, okay, Patrice, now we have to tell the people. I was like, so you're going to have to sit down? Are you sure? We can go through with this. But still, there was no plans for marriage. It wasn't until he got sick. He had cut his toe and it caught gangrene, and they were going to have to amputate his entire leg. But they only amputated his feet. We were in the hospital for 21 days, and I did not leave his side for only 8 hours. It was hellacious.
I remember that. Wow.
It was terrible. And he was laying in his bed. He looks out the window, not even looking at me, and he says, so, I'm crippled, I don't have a foot. Do you still want to marry me?
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful.
That was his proposal. And I'm like, huh? I was like, I'll marry you with no foot, 2 foot. You know, I have sat here these last couple of weeks and endured so much.
Yeah.
And he was like, we'll set a date. I was like, oh, okay, yay, I'm getting married. What kind of proposal was that? But after he got out the hospital and, you know, got back together, during Christmas, he asked my grandfather. My grandfather's like my dad. He asked my grandfather for my hand, and he gave me a ring then, and he proposed. It was really, really cute.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one that meant the most to me was at Potter's house on New Year's Eve. He had purposely started an argument before service. So I was over it. I ain't want to be sitting with, like, I don't even want to start my New Year with you. Like, no. Mm-mm. And the spirit was high. Then Bishop called him up, and I was like, okay, he's going to give a word. I don't even want to hear it. So I done took my shoes
I'm
off.
mad at you. I don't even understand why we had this argument, and now Bishop Grady calling. I don't want to hear this.
I took my shoes off and I sat down, and he got on his knee and proposed to me in front of everybody.
I remember that. It was so beautiful.
I was like, oh, I don't have no shoes on. So.
Wow. And so now you've dated, you've been single, now you've dated, now you're engaged, planning a big wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that a little bit, the emotions.
Well, the deal was, I told my sister, listen, I'm not having another child. I really not. Like, I know we want a summer wedding, but this wedding has to happen before she comes. When I go to the hospital, my last name is going to be Headen. It's going to be husband and wife. We're going to get a little ad in the paper. It's going to be right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got married the day after our first date. And it was interesting. You really learn who people are doing weddings and funerals. Like, you really, really do. It was my dream wedding. Although I was 8 months pregnant and I was huge, I was determined to have a wedding dress. So my grandma couldn't be with me, got an extra large dress, and she constructed it into a wedding dress because I said, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not. And considering that he was against getting married again anyway, he was against anything that went along with it. Everything that went along with the wedding, he picked. He picked our colors. He picked the decorations. He picked the song that I walked out on. It was Kelly Price, I Need a Healing for Myself. I was like, that song is so stupid. But I listened to the words, and it was, I need a healing for myself, just for my soul. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. So he picked everything. And our wedding night, of course, I'm 8 months pregnant. There's no consummation. I just want to go to sleep. But he said, well, Trace, you remember I told you that people change when they get married. I said, yeah. So what you trying to say? But that was the first time he told me that he loved me and he called me back.
Okay, that was the first time.
That was the first time he told me he loved
me. In the whole 4-year dating process, engagement, and this is the first time that he tells you he loves you. How are you able to endure that for so long and not hearing those words? You're engaged to marry someone, but you've never heard him say, I love you. Well, you knew he loved you.
I knew he loved me.
You just never heard him say it.
He just never said it. And in dating him and learning his family and learning his background and where he come from and his first marriage, I understood the importance of
he
the
was very
words,
guarded.
I love you. And he was very guarded. Like, his way of saying I love you was, God bless you.
Wow.
So he says, okay, now God bless you. Okay. Now, I had told him that I loved him prior to, but
wow.
No.
So we're now we've come from single to married, engaged to married, and baby's about to be
Mm-hmm.
born. And talk about the baby. And what it did for him.
It did a lot for him. I think his candid conversations with Bishop helped a whole lot because it was a rough pregnancy in the beginning, and then Bishop, was telling him, "Look, Doc, this is what you got to do."
That was their word.
Yes. Towards the end, especially after we got married, he became more affectionate. Not real affectionate, but more. That's a lot for him.
Yeah.
Where I would, take a shower, he would put a towel in the dryer so that when I got out the dryer, I had a warm towel.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought that was so sweet.
That is sweet. I've been married for 33 years. I'm still waiting on my warm towel.
And he would rub my back. And after he found out it was a girl, like everything, he picked Azzy's entire name, her first name and her middle name. He woke me up in the middle of the night, 5 o'clock in the morning. He said, "You got to figure out how to spell it. But her name is going to be Asmarel Myasia." I said, "That sounds like I dream a genius."
That's the first thing when you told me that. That's the first thing I thought about. Because that's actually bewitched.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, that sounds like I dream a dream. That doesn't make sense. I was like, okay, well, where does the Myasia comes from? He says, "You have your Asia, and I have my Asia." So that's where her middle name comes from. Like, he was definitely, if anybody asked him, he says he had 2 girls. It was never stepdad or any of that. So he came up with the name. He was in the process. He was heading to dialysis when I went into labor. When they got ready to tell me to push, he was at dialysis, about to get hooked up. And he was like, "Tell her to hold on, tell her to hold on."
You can't push until I get out of dialysis.
So
Patrice, listen, I need to go to a commercial break really quickly. When we get back, we're going to talk about the pushing and him being in dialysis. And we're going to talk. Listen, everybody, listen. I want to go to a quick little commercial break for a minute. I want you to enjoy it. We're going to talk about an upcoming conference that I'm having. So please enjoy. We're back. Listen, we're going to continue with the show, and let's talk about the pushing. The pushing and the dialysis. Talk about it.
Yeah, I had been in labor that whole day and really didn't know it. And ironically, I was supposed to be induced that Saturday night at 7:30. So my family came up that Friday night.
Okay.
And Harrison kept saying, "She gonna come when she ready to come." I was like, "Nah, I'm just gonna help her out because I'm tired of being pregnant."
We gonna get her out of there somehow.
Right. So I was in a lot of pain, and he was like, "Get her out of here, get her out of here." So my mom and my grandmother took me to the hospital, not knowing that I was in full-blown labor. He was at the house because he had dialysis that morning, and he went at 5 a.m. So he finally gets over to the hospital about 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's like, "Nothing." I'm like, we just waiting now. So,
he's
yes, he was hoping that she was coming before then. At 6 is when he finally, no, it was about 4 o'clock, he finally left. He gets all the way to the dialysis center in Adams Farm from the hospital.
Okay.
And at that point, it's like, "Okay, Miss Headen, you're ready to push." So my mom was on the phone with him. He was like, well, I don't know what to do. So the people at Dallas was like, you gonna go see your baby be born. You can come back afterwards. And so he rushes and he gets in, and I'm just like, I'm ready for him to come. I'm ready for him to come. He pops in the room. Now, mind you, the entire time we're going through the pregnancy, I'm not going to cut the cord. I'm not touching her. I'm not doing nothing until they clean her up.
Oh.
None of that.
Oh, wow.
So, they got ready. Oh, it's going to be a couple of pushes. So, nothing's ready.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have no drapery, no nothing. One push, and her head was out.
Wow.
So, they're like, stop!
Wow.
So, they're trying to grab everything, and his mouth is open, just like, what is really going on?
He's in awe.
He is in awe. So, the second push, she came all the way out, and they're getting ready to cut the cord, and so my mom grabs the scissors. He said, that's my baby. I was like, oh, we're going to cut the cord now. So he cuts the cord, and he's just taking millions of pictures, and he wants to hold her. And I was a little embarrassed because the first person he sent pictures to was Bishop, and she had just came out, so she's aching like, man, you can't show these. And I mean, he's showing these pictures like she's been washed and cleaned and everything. So he went to dialysis, and then he came back, and all he did was just hold her that entire
because a baby changes everything.
Everything.
And where he was not one that showed emotions, now all of these emotions are coming out of him, and you're seeing a whole nother side of the prophet.
Yes.
The strong man.
Yes. A hard man.
Yeah, and he just humbled down and became such a great father.
Yes, he was an amazing father, because it got into at one point, like, it was, no, you're not going to work until she's at least 1 and can talk and go to daycare. I think a housewife is the worst job in the entire world, because you can't call out of that. Like, you can't be sick, you can't have a bed, like, no.
And it's a job that never stops.
Never.
It's
always.
But you know what? I loved it. I knew that whenever I got pregnant, I was married for like 12 years before my daughter came. And doctors saying I couldn't have kids or whatever. So when she finally came, it was just like the most powerful thing for me. And I knew I'm going to come home. I don't care what I got to do. I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. But I wasn't prepared for the fact that a stay-at-home mom never stops. Never stops. And the only person, when my husband would be gone to work, the only person I had to talk to was her.
Right. Absolutely. It was crazy. But he was a great father. He, when we were in the hospital after she was born, he had said, Patrice, I'm not going to make the same mistake I made before. Like, my family comes first.
Wow.
And then ministry. We came first. Mm-hmm. We were first. With my hometown being so far away, and me being such a family-oriented person, anybody who knows me knows my family. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like, I want to go home this weekend. Okay, let me call Minister Farmer and see if he can do service this week. I didn't say you had to go. But family came first. Like, family really came first. I mean, we took family vacations. We were first. I can honestly say that at no time did I ever feel like ministry was above me. I did go through a little bit of postpartum depression, and he worked through that with me. Wow. I can't do Bible study tonight. I have to stay home with her. Like the little things. I'll never forget. I had just had Azzy, and it was the Sun Summit. And he was a doting dad at the Sun Summit. He came home, and he brought me roses for no reason. Wow. I'm just like, where were you at 4 years ago?
Baby changes everything.
Where was you at 4 years ago? Like, I ain't never get flowers from you. Like, I'm lucky to get a birthday card.
So everything is going wonderful. It's like you've been this single person that married this prophet and became the first lady, was embraced by the church. Now you got this beautiful baby girl, a husband that is doting over you and making sure that you and Azzy have everything. Not just materialistically, but every emotion of love and support. And things are going great. And things are going wonderful. then all of a sudden, there's this huge shift, this huge change. Let's talk about that.
Well, and things really were going well. Like I said, the baby changed everything. He took his health a lot more serious. His diet, he had cut out fried food. We had cut out a lot of fast food. He was exercising. We were actually exercising together because I was trying to get the baby weight off. He was trying to lose weight to get underweight for his kidney transplant. He was going to dialysis like he was supposed to. Even if we went out of town, he would find a dialysis center wherever we were to get his treatment done because he wanted to follow the guidelines to get put on the list. Technically, he would have gotten his kidney January of 2015. But things did not go as planned. And leading up to his passing, you don't pay attention to certain things. But now, when I think about the things that led up to it, it all makes sense. The week that he passed, I had finally went back to work. I literally had just went back to work in May. And he decided he
At this
still...
point, the baby was...
She was one.
Okay.
She was one. We had her christened at the church. Bishop and Harrison had spoke over her life, and a lot of the things that both of them said is coming to pass. And the deal was, okay, Patrice, as long as you understand that you have a responsibility at church, you know, you can go back to work. And when my director called me, I said, well, you have to talk to my husband first. You know, you have to understand that I'm a wife and I'm the first lady at the church. So I have responsibilities. There's no staying late, any of that. And everything was wonderful. I was able to get out the house, work part-time, still be a wife. The church was going well. He would force me to preach on some Sundays. But with me, it wasn't really preaching. It was more so teaching. That was just me. But everything was going well. And the week that led up to it, he was spending a lot of time with Azzy. A lot of time. He still didn't want her in daycare. When I went to work and he went to dialysis, she would go to his sister's. And he would pick her up after he got out of dialysis. So he was a stay-at-home dad. And he loved it. He loved it. Said he won't change your Pampers, but he did. Now, he saved some of them for me when I got home.
I'll get a little prize, a little present for you.
Yes, like he was definitely a stay-at-home dad. Cooked dinner, like I came home and I was just like, oh, it's just so easy. Why can't I went back to work earlier? But he had a revival that week out of town. I've never missed any speaking engagements since we started dating. Never missed any. Even if I was out of town, I would come back to any speaking engagement he had. This particular one, I went back to work, but my director knew when my husband goes out of town, I go with him. He was like, no, buddy, I want you. And at that time, Azzy was with my mother and my grandmother. So he's like, no, I want you to learn how to be by yourself. I'm thinking that he was stating that because I hadn't had any time by myself since getting married, having the baby, and just everything. I had no time to myself. I'm thinking, okay, cool. And then while I was gone, he sent me to the spa to get a massage and all this good stuff. And I packed his stuff, and I was like, well, I can come. He was like, no, just come down Friday. I come down Friday, and everybody was expecting, to see me and all that good stuff. And it was very rare that I was asked to introduce him. This particular night, I was asked to introduce him. And I introduced him, and he got sappy, I got sappy. And it was, cute. And then after he finished ministering, he said, since this is the last night, I want to call for healing. And I was like, okay. So I went up to the altar, and he said, well, what are you up here for? I said, I'm you. My kidneys are your kidneys. So I want you to pray for my kidneys so they can be healed. He looked at me and he asked, the woman pastor that was there to pray for me. I was very much offended. Like, I didn't get it. Like, but you praying over all these people who want healing from your hands. I'm acting as you. Why won't you
heal you through you?
Right. So why won't you pray for me? I didn't get it. So after service, we went to dinner. We get back to the hotel, and those who know how pastors are, natural release comes, spiritual release comes, and natural release. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
But my husband wasn't a cuddler. He was not a cuddler. After, it was roll over, go to sleep. But he held me that entire night.
Wow.
Like, held me that entire night. And then we woke up, and he says, go home and get my baby. I said, I still got another week. He said, go home and get my baby. I said, okay. So I drove to Greenville to pick Azzy up. He called me Sunday morning because he had to speak at another church. It was Bishop Williams Church. I'll never forget it. And he says, I couldn't preach. I said, what do you mean? He says, I had nothing for him. He says, I was empty. So I just told him a story. And we know how he would tell his stories when he would preach.
His closing stories.
Yes. So he said, I just told him a story, shook the mic, and left. I was like, okay, so what did you do? He went to his uncle's church. This is the church where he did his initial sermon. The man who ordained him. Where his ministry began, so to say. And technically that was the last pulpit that he was in.
Wow.
Because that was that Sunday. Well, that Monday, I went to work, and Carter Brothers was a place that we loved to go and get our yellow chocolate cake and picking cake. And I went and I picked up the cake, and we were talking, and he came in the room, and when I came, Azzy was out of the ordinary, just extra happy. And he kept sending me videos of them that whole day. I was like, what is going on? So, because when I came home, the house was a wreck. She had stuff everywhere. So, when we're watching, what was the name of that show? Henry Huggle Monsters.
Okay.
And he says, babe, I got a headache. I'm going to go ahead and go to bed and take some pain medicine and go to bed. I said, okay. So I'm holding Azzy, trying to get her to sleep. And he leans over and he kisses me on my forehead. And he says, I love you. I'm like, oh, okay. I know what that means. He's like, no, I just want you to know that I love you. I love you and I appreciate everything you've ever done for me.
Wow.
Like, Patrice, do you know that I really do love you? Well, he called me Teresa May.
Wow. So he was saying that like he was saying goodbye?
At that time, I didn't think, I thought he was,
just
hinting.
Just wanted to be a little amorous.
I said, okay, well, let me get on to sleep. I'll see you in a minute. He's like, no. I just want you to know that I really love you. Like, you have given me everything that I've ever wanted. I'm like, okay. You want some extra stuff.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to cook dinner tomorrow, too. I'm going to have breakfast waiting for you. So he went, and by the time Azzy had gotten to sleep, I had went and gotten into bed too. He was already asleep. Well, Azzy woke up, and because he had dialysis that day, I didn't want her to interrupt him. So I go into the living room and deal with her. He gets up, he comes down the hallway, the way our condo was set up. You could see the hallway from the living room. And I'm looking, and he's grabbing the door handles, and then he falls. So I run over there to him, and I'm like, honey, you okay? I pick him up, and his forehead is on my forehead. He's dripping in sweat. He's not saying anything. He's just holding me really tight, and his forehead is on my forehead. And I'm just like, are you okay? Are you okay? He's not saying anything. And he fell. After he fell, I immediately started going crazy. And Azzy is standing over his head. And she's She wasn't screaming. She wasn't crying. She's nothing. And I'm hysterical. I am like super hysterical. So I'm calling 911. They're saying to do CPR, and I watched him take his last breath. I watched his eyes roll in the back of his head, and 911 came, and they told us that we couldn't get in the back of the ambulance. I am blowing everybody's phone up. Nobody's answering the phone. Honestly, my director and you were the first two people to answer the phone. So when the ambulance left, the lights were on, the siren was on. They went out the front door, I went out the back door. I ran, I grabbed a sports bra off the bed just so I wouldn't be looking crazy. I got in the car, I threw Azzy in the car seat. They pulled off. I pulled off right behind them. It was silent. I didn't see the ambulance, and I didn't hear it. I had no clue as to where they went. I don't know where they went. So I get to the hospital, and I'm hysterical. I'm by myself. I honestly don't know where Azzy was after we get into the hospital. I don't remember where she was. The lady at the registration, she gets my information. She says, and you are, I said, I'm his wife. She gets all the information. She hit the enter button. As soon as she hit enter, the entourage came around the corner. I laugh at stuff you see on TV when the women are acting crazy. Yeah. I ran from one end of the hospital to the other. I fell in the middle of the floor. I screamed. I yelled. And I'm just like, you're all lying. Because when they were working on him, he had a faint heartbeat. But he can't be gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
My director arrived, and she got me up off the floor. And as soon as she arrived, that's when you arrived. And it was a while before Bishop got there. And you all left at the same time.
He couldn't. He was having such a hard time. He couldn't.
And to Greenville is a good 2.5, 45 minute, 3-hour ride. My mom got there in 90 minutes. No one could believe it.
Yeah. It was so surreal.
I am 33 years old. And I'm a widow.
And that was such a hard time, and it was so hard to see you have to go through that, because you look at this woman, she's married, she's living a fairy tale life, mm-hmm. and then out of nowhere, 33 and a widow.
We didn't have everything. We did struggle because we were often one income and is Social Security.
But it's not always about the money, honey. It's about the relationship.
I tell everybody, like, I really did marry my soulmate. Like, he was the man of beyond my wildest dreams. He made me so happy. I mean, I married Harrison. I saw a part that other people didn't see. They saw Prophet Headen, they saw him. But I married Harrison, and Harrison was fun.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that, made me feel so good is that he defended me when I didn't know it. Mm-hmm. At the church, he did not put me in the first lady box. He said, you be you. You're my wife. Mm-hmm. You're not a pedestal. You're not a trophy. You're my wife. And they're going to respect you at that, or they're not going to respect me. So I was angry with God.
Yeah.
You know, no one in my family had planned a funeral before. So if it wasn't for
33,
if it wasn't for you and Bishop, I would not have gotten. Yeah.
Honey, we loved you through it
Yes.
and gave you all the space that you need because nobody expects this, and it happens. And you're young with a baby, and not knowing what to do with this. Let's talk about the feeling, whether it be guilt or all of the emotions that you went through at that particular time.
I hated God. I was angry. I was very angry. I was very angry because I felt like I did everything right this time. We didn't dot every I, we didn't cross any T. We're human, but we did right, and he did right. Why? Like, I have this child who will never know outside of what I tell her that how much her daddy loved her.
Yeah.
Like, that was his pride and joy. Like, that was, you saw, if I wasn't with them, it was always the two of them. Like, you didn't see him without her.
Yeah.
At all. At all. It was, and I think being in mental health and working in the field that I work in and working with the clientele that I do, I learned how to put on a facade.
Yeah. And we all know. And then that other part, the first lady, we know how to put on the
Right.
face. Yeah.
Right.
We know how to wear the face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I went through some people telling me, oh, well, you all wasn't married that long. And I think that, like, if we were still together now, we'd be going on 11 years together.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter how long you were married.
Love
is love.
Right. And in our relationship, we went through some things that most people who've been married for 20 years don't go through. We're talking about life or death, illness.
Yes.
The constant, there was times where I had to bathe my husband. I had to put his clothes on. I was a caregiver.
Yes.
And didn't complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
There were times of trying to figure out how to pay our bills and the church bills at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to eat because we got to make sure that the church lights are stayed on.
Pressure. Yes.
So, but the first year, I just went through the emotions of dealing with things. And I got through the first year, and I'm like, yay, I made it through the first year. And after the first year, I think that's when reality hit. Reality hit really, really hard that he's not here. He's gone. And I went into a depression that was it was really bad. And I let it get the best of me. I came to church on Sundays, came to Bible study, because I felt like, knowing our congregation, it's a lot of us.
Yeah.
So Bishop got to deal with them, and Pastor has to deal with them, and
so I'll suffer in silence.
And I'm secretly hearing people, oh, she needs to get over it by now, and I'm just like, well, I'm gonna pretend like I'm over it, and I was.
There's no time limit on grief.
And
people get tired because they don't understand.
Right.
And my husband, he went through the depression. As I stated at the top of the conversation, Pastor Headen was like, that was like the son. That was like the son of the sons that he had. And at the time, he had several sons in the gospel, but Pastor Headen was
Yeah,
That was the son.
I'll never forget. It was one Tuesday night that I just broke, and Bishop laid on the altar with me, and he cried with me, and he prayed with me, and he told me to just stay there as long as I needed to.
Yeah.
That second year was rough. It was rough because as he was starting to ask questions, and I didn't know what to tell him.
Wow.
And I'm trying to function, and I can't function because my therapist at the time, she was a Christian therapist, so I couldn't go in there and say what I wanted to say. And I just said, well, you know what? We're just going to deal with this ourselves because I can't deal with it with her, and I didn't want to be a burden on you and Bishop. And other people say, I'm here for you, but when I call you, I don't want to hear this again, and you just feel like that's just not what I want to do.
But depression is real,
Mm-hmm.
and grief is a very, very, very painful thing. We're going to break for a minute, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the aftermath of realizing that you are now a 33-year-old widow with a small child that is asking about her dad. There's so many people out there, and you're wanting to hear the rest of this. All I can tell you is you need to stay tuned, because we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the realness of this fairy tale life now in transition.